this issue. That's all I asked. You know what I mean, like talking. We're gonna go.
Over my life. Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, when there's an email going out. Can't debate it.
Yeah.
Because I get boiled a lot, to y'all.
So we're on YouTube, all set, all right. Then looks like we're just past seconds, so we'll call the meeting to order. Our first item will be approving the minutes from the last time. Everyone have a chance to look at those?
Yeah.
Anyone see from it to be adjusted, changed, whatever? All right, then a motion to approve the minutes as good enough. All right, Mr. Jackson, and a second by Dustin. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and those are the minutes. Which brings up to tonight's public hearing. I will open the public hearing. At whatever time it is, sure. I will wait for formal reading of the notice as it was posted in the Sentinel. Everyone's familiar with the property? Yes. I'm seeing nods. Then if Mr. Smith would come up and give us a overview of what you have planned, feel free to grab a seat or stand, whatever works for you.
You don't have to do the point, you can sit right at the table.
That's what stairs are there. If you would rather, by all means, do what you want.
Only because I got a trick deed. I mean, this gets the, like the bend too long. So does everyone have a copy of my proposal? That's okay. Should I just read the first page or?
Whatever-
Do that just to get
Whatever
things
you want to
rolling?
share.
My plan is to build a 12-foot shed that will be attached to my existing 20-foot by 12-foot small barn, and I include a picture of that. The shed will be attached on the east side of the barn or the back side, so it won't be visible from my yard or from neighbors or from the street for the most part. You can see there's trees around it. The shed will be used to store multiple things, multiple bicycles, kids' outdoor toys, lawn and garden equipment. Unfortunately, currently I store things like an lawn roller, a garden cart, a garden utility trailer on the back side of that barn, and stuff to keep them covered and dust free. So a shed would certainly be preserve my equipment a lot better and employees. An alternative would be to build an additional standalone shed, but this would be wouldn't be as cost effective because with the shed attachment, I just have to do 3 walls. One wall will be the barn, and also an additional barn is going to be visible. An additional building on the property. The attached proposal does require a variance as far as the setback of the code of 20 feet on the back lot line. I've already had obtained the variance for the barn built back in around 1993. The attached shed at the barn would result in the shed being 5 foot now from my back lot line, and that's the application that is attached. So that's essentially the variance I'm asking for. Now there is one small glitch. I haven't done anything. I'm looking at this, waiting for the building permit. Until today, I went back and did some little bit of clearing and some pruning. And I've got a 12 by 12 foot area marked out. But in doing the pruning, I now realize that I've got a tree that bends and tilts and would infringe upon my roof line if I were to keep it to 12 by 12 foot footprint, the way I originally outlined it. Now, there's a couple of easy solutions, I think. Obviously, I'm going to have to narrow that 12 foot, and the maximum, I did a plumb bob, and it looks like the maximum I could go with 11 foot wide instead of 12 foot, and may have to go like 10.5. But my proposal is that I'd be allowed to change the other dimension, but maintain close to my original 12 by 12 square foot. 44. So go something like 11 by 14 or 10 by 14. And I'm not sure how the record has to show it. And one proposal I would say is we could leave the 12 by 12 foot barn dimension in there, but just say plus or minus 2 feet. In either one of the 2 dimensions, and that gives me room to diminish one dimension, increase the other by 2 feet. Again, I'm not sure from a legal documentation standpoint, what has to be on there.
So the publicized request was for a 5-foot setback. Have you listened to him? Could we approve a 3-foot, or is that too far out of?
So I guess.
Is that the direction that it's gonna be bigger in, or is it gonna
Yeah.
be? So it's back toward the back lot?
It'll shrink towards the existing barn.
It'll be less of a setback, right?
So you would only need like 6 foot if it was 11 foot.
No, well, it's the other dimension. The dimension toward the lot line would increase if
Okay.
allowed. And the other dimension within the barn
Okay.
is gonna be.
North south, okay.
I think we're still good.
You could do that if you want.
Okay, so if we need a point, we're good.
Yeah,
This isn't gonna change, this would change, this would,
yeah,
which would not be part of it.
either way, you could make
Yeah.
that revision. So-
And across that property line behind you.
Pretty
It's
established.
a farm's field, it's a bunch of trees, it's what's there.
Well, it's an empty field, but the person that owns it, he typically will plow it and let it go to grass. He does have in between the hedgerow and the field, he's got a road essentially. I can call it more of a trail. He runs ATVs on and they walk the dogs on. So it's even, close to 30 or 40 feet before you get to his field. Because of the hedgerow and the little road that he's got. But I certainly would be keeping it all on my property.
Right.
Anyway,
So you sent us this nice picture of the barn.
yep,
This fence looks like it connects to the barn.
yes.
So you're building past that fence, or is it, do I have the angle wrong in the picture?
So would not be visible from that view. The shed would be attached to the back side.
Right.
This, what you're looking at is the west side of the barn,
Mhm.
and the shed would be attached to the east side, so it wouldn't be visible in that picture.
He's wondering if the fence spans on your property line or it runs into the existing barn.
Because it,
It just runs into the existing barn.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that makes sense then? And in your variance back in 93, I think it was, you talked about the slope of the land, why you want the barn where it is.
Right.
So is the slope all good with your shed where it is? It's not gonna be a factor?
right, it levels out at that point. And I would have had to push the barn toward my house to avoid, not meeting the variance, it would have been on a. There's inconvenience trying to excavate and get a level spot for it.
Anyone else have questions? All right. Then, if there are no other questions, I will waive the formal asking of the 5 questions. I think they were covered in the application. Nice discussion. Katrina, is there anyone online to comment? And I don't see anyone in the room. So motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
We have a move, we have a second.
Second.
Justin, all right, all those in favor of closing the hearing? All right, any opposed? Okay. You're welcome to hang out. We will probably get an answer for you in the next few minutes, or you can, whatever works for you.
Am I needed for any?
You're not needed. We just gotta talk amongst ourselves for a little while here.
Okay, so I can leave or certainly I'll stay if you like, but.
You don't need to.
Whatever.
Gordon, what I'm gonna do is I will, email you tomorrow, and I'll just send you the.
Okay.
This issue.
Okay. Okay, good plan.
On that note, does anyone think there's a reason we should not act tonight, or if we can go with this?
I thank you for your attention to that. Thank you for showing up. Oh, yeah, on my phone.
Thank
Have a good night.
I did put together a draft, which we can go through and presumably get a move on that. So, area requested by Gordon Smith of 12 Lantern Lane. This is another 0.72 acre to build a 144 square foot lean-to addition. The existing set with a rear setback of 5 feet. Which is probably a good time as I to discuss. He mentioned 3. Do we want to say 3? Do we want to say 5? Thoughts on that?
He confirmed that the distance is not going to get shorter. It's gonna stay that or shorter into his property. And then the width would be on the existing barn. So I don't think we need to make an amendment on that.
I interpreted the map the other way.
Right, yeah, I thought that was the question I asked, and I thought he said the opposite. I thought he said it would get longer toward the.
It's gonna extend towards the property line.
And 3 is fine. We can say 3.
All right.
2 or 3.
So then this is probably a question for David. Because the request was 5, do we change that to 5 up to 3 in the top, or do we just reference down below?
Just reference it down below that during,
Okay.
at the public hearing, the applicant asked for an additional 2 feet encroachment into the variance, which was on your discussion deemed acceptable. You can make the variance no greater than 3 feet or no less than.
So with that, whereas Gordon, the property owner, appeared before the zoning board at tonight's meeting. Section 26106 of the zoning code states RA1 district has a rear setback of 20 feet. The applicant is requesting a setback of, and I would scratch this one out and put in 3 feet. Whereas in July of '93, the applicant received the variance to build the existing barn with a rear setback of 17 feet. The current request is to build a 12 by 12 shed attached to the existing barn. The intended use of the shed is to store lawn equipment similar. This had to be behind the existing barn, causing it to be effectively screened from the road. The neighboring property past the rear setback is currently farmed, and there's a tree line before reaching the field. And the applicant acknowledged the possibility of building a separate structure. He states this would be more costly and not as aesthetically pleasing. And I would add in that whereas at the public hearing, the applicant asked for an additional 2 feet. Anyone think something needs to be added to that? All right. And then we had no members of the public that commented. It was exempt from county planning due to that agreement from whatever you signed for. All that looked good to everyone? All right. And then I would say the benefit cannot be achieved by other feasible means. I'm seeing nods, some uncertainty there.
I'm finding it there now.
All right. I would say it is substantial. It's a 75% reduction. I would say it would not have any adverse physical or environmental effects. The impact is too small. I'm seeing more nods there. It would not have undesirable change in the neighborhood as the location has sufficient screening.
Right.
Continuing to see nods, and it was self-created as the applicant's desired construction location. All right, type 2 under seeker, I see no need for any conditions. And all of that sounds good.
Move to approve the variance.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. And
Chris and Steve.
we have an approval for Mr. Smith. You can share that with him whenever you get around to that.
I'll get the final.
So there is a training event coming up in May 18th, just so you're all aware. I believe the deadline to sign up is the 3rd. Before we talk about flowers for Steve or not, anything else? Anyone has anything need to discuss? All right, then.
Want to know about your meetings?
Sure, what do you have coming up?
Time 11, we have the CEO appeal interpretation. To the good note application, which is known as Flowers by Steve for property on Miles Spring Road. With another application that was given to me. Not send it to you because he needs to then sign all 10 copies he gave him, and he signed one. He's supposed to come today. I will get them to you so I can have on May 25th. That is another area that is.
So we will have one on the 25th, we're on paperwork yet. And there's one,
As he signed.
Yep. knowing it's out there is, I think, the important part at this point. So I'm going to defer to David for this. Attorney-client discussion would be outside of public meetings, we would close the meeting.
You would end your meeting, and if you want, you can.
You have to state the reason for it. So I don't.
We're not, it's not executive session, so we're outside of. The attorney-client privilege is outside of, all of that, so, yeah, so we do not need to announce anything, let's close the meeting, we're done. Turn off all the recording, and we can all talk.
And I don't need to come back on for any reason.
No,
Should we make a motion to end the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
So with that in mind,
Motion, close the meeting.
we have a motion,
Oh, second.
we have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that is a meeting.